Hello and welcome to yet another episode where Dr. Byrd and I are going to discuss about cybersecurity. My name is Aniket. I'm one of the hosts for this podcast. And with me, I've got Dr. Byrd, who is also going to share with us his nuggets of wisdom on how to stay secure. Dr. Byrd, welcome to the podcast.
Hey, thanks, Aniket. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. This is, again, one of the kind of timely topics that we are covering. Common security threats while we're traveling, common security threats on our mobile devices. With the advancement of technology, everybody has a smartphone and a tablet. We use it to, communicate with our friends, our family. It connects us to our social media platforms. We use it for browsing the internet and even our streaming services. So security and privacy controls are of the utmost importance.
They go hand in hand, as they say.
Yes, they do.
Great.
In some of our previous discussions, we were talking about some of the things that people can do to stay safe. One of the challenges was around particularly travel. We talked about SIM swapping, QR code, juice jacking, and malicious apps. Any thoughts about that, Aniket?
Yeah. SIM swapping, that's a dangerous one. That's where my SIM card, which is associated with my phone number, and now some hacker can talk to the telephone company and convince them that from now on, this mobile number will be routed to a different SIM card, a new SIM card. So somebody is literally stealing my SIM card, and God knows what they're going to do with that.
Exactly. That's really unique to our device. When that happens, it allows them to receive the multi-factor authentication codes to get access to our accounts and things of that nature. That ties into the malicious app conversation as well, which is actually the foundation of social engineering, right? So we've talked in some of our previous discussions around social engineering, the act of getting users, targets to take these unsafe actions, right? Whether it's clicking on links, clicking on or opening and engaging with text messages, right? All of those types of things. And malicious apps can be a part of that. An additional control is to encourage people to download apps only from the official app store, right? To ensure that you have those additional controls in place, whether that be Apple Store or Google Android Store or what have you.
That's right. In fact, my father-in-law, he fell victim to this about a year ago, where he was trying to contact an airline company. When he called in or when he tried to visit the website, he got to a malicious phone number, and the hacker was talking to him on the phone. Hacker said, "Hey, I have an app, and that app will help you to get your refund very quickly." So he sent an app link to my father-in-law, who he clicked on the link. He downloaded an application, not from the Play Store, but from a third-party website. And that application was malicious. It took control of his phone, recorded the keystrokes, and within a span of 15 minutes, he started to see financial transactions from his account. Money was just leaking. So downloading any app not from the direct app store is a big, big risk. And everybody should be aware of that.
Exactly. Sorry to hear about that, Aniket. But again, those are some best practices that we all can share. We want to confirm and verify, especially with the onset of generative AI tools, right? We know that cybercriminals have the ability to impersonate our banks, our help desks, and things of that nature. They're using it to create these very believable lures, right? And kind of attack strategies. So confirming and verify through a known good source is definitely the way you want to go. And don't be afraid to hang up. Anytime you're being pressured or urged to take a certain action, you have to stay cool and calm, pause, confirm, and verify before you take that next step.
Yeah, that's right. And, the attackers have been using this for a while now, where the call will be from an unknown number, claiming to be from your IT team. And he would say, "We detected some kind of unusual activity from your laptop. I'm sending you a link to an easy assist kind of a software, a remote control software. You have to install that, otherwise you can't work anymore." And the employee feels pressured, as you said. And the employee, without even thinking about it, installs the remote assist app, and the computer gets compromised.
Yep. That's a great example. One thing that we have to keep in mind is that as we transition from our desktops, our laptops, to our smartphones and our tablets, we have a smaller screen factor, right? Smaller
Yeah,
opportunity to view and analyze our emails like we normally
yeah,
do. We tell people to hover over the link before clicking. You can look
yeah,
at the header information, the sender information. But when you have that smaller screen, right, and you're
yeah,
walking down the street or you're traveling, right, you are more susceptible. You're actually distracted, right? So you're more susceptible to taking that next leap that the cyber criminals are hoping for, clicking that link and engaging that URL. Another thing to be mindful of specifically on our mobile devices are these QR codes.
hmm,
Quishing is something that a lot of the
yeah,
threat intel reports are starting to talk about. This is the malicious use of QR codes. Cyber criminals are using them. They're commonplace, and they will redirect you directly to a malicious website or that website. You don't have the ability to scan and hover like we traditionally do with the URL. So you definitely want to be mindful of QR codes. Think about the context in which you are seeing them and viewing them, and be very careful and cautious about those.
so true. It's more like a phishing link, but in a visual format, where
Exactly.
you don't even get to, as you say, hover over the URL and check the lock icon. You scan the QR code, and some apps do showcase the URL that you're going, but some applications don't. So
Ex-
again, like you said, the form factor comes into picture. On a smaller screen, you are in a hurry. Your flight is about to get boarding is about to start, and you are in a hurry. You quickly scan the QR code, click on the button, and you don't realize what just happened there.
exactly. Exactly.
The form factor plays another important part here, along with the AI. We talked about AI and how attackers are using it. Attackers have also used AI to create deepfakes, where, let's say, they are targeting a journalist and they know that the journalist has a daughter. They will try and capture the voice of that daughter using some social engineering techniques, then
Hmm.
call the journalist and play a fake audio clip where the girl is asking for help. She's desperate, and during that desperation, the journalist receives a message. Again, form factor comes into picture. He clicks on the link. So all of this is being targeted for making the victim to perform an action with AI enabled now.
Exactly. Exactly. When we start, our conversation today, we were talking about security and privacy on our mobile devices,
Yeah,
especially while we're traveling. A lot of the devices have these kind of convenience features. There may be fine while we're at home and while we're in office, but as we start to commute, as we go to conferences and workshops and travel with our family and friends on vacation and holiday, we want to make
yeah,
sure we're disabling some of these things. That's something that I share with my friends and family. I turn off my Wi-Fi and my Bluetooth when I leave the house. I download all of the movies that I want to watch on the airplane before I,
yes,
leave the house,
yeah,
and disable that. When I've traveled, I've noticed that my phone has already and automatically, without my consent acknowledgement, connected to a Wi-Fi at the local airport, and
yeah.
I didn't accept that. You just don't know what's happening behind the scenes, on these devices, or who may be controlling that particular, Wi-Fi technology. So you want to make sure that you disable these things before
Yeah.
you leave the house. Those are security and privacy settings that you can certainly handle yourself.
That reminds me of the lockdown period, the COVID-19. I remember the first time I had stepped out of my house after the lockdown had been lifted. I stepped out like a warrior, lots of tension. I was wearing two masks. I had a sanitizer in my pocket, and I was
Yes.
really wary of not going near anybody, just getting the stuff done and getting
Yeah.
back home. That's how you should be when you are traveling and you've got digital data with you.
Exactly. We carry so much sensitive and personal information on our devices. Just think about it for a moment. We've got our payment details, we have our credit card information,
Yeah.
associated with some of our apps. We have our location details, our personal emails, sensitive personal information about our families, and those type of things. So we really want to safeguard our devices physically and digitally.
That's very true. And that's really where different types of attacks target us. We talked about the QR code based phishing or quishing. We talked about SIM swapping. Then you have spoken about the malicious Wi-Fi. Now, against all of these, the different kinds of protective measures that we can have, I think, as you said, going out with the airplane mode on and not connecting to any kind of unknown networks. VPN could be quite the game changer here, don't you think? VPN is quite the shield in an unprotected and wild west of the internet.
Exactly. It gives you this, secure tunnel, right? The ability to protect that data in transit, right? So that gives you the opportunity if you're in work mode while you're traveling. While I'm traveling, I try to avoid, logging into any sensitive or personal accounts. Just, err on the side of caution. Another thing that we've talked about, Aniket, is juice jacking, something that has been in the threat intel reports. That's when cybercriminals take control or compromise the USB plug-in adapters, right, that you may see at the airport or at hotels and things like that. What that ultimately does is give the cybercriminals, right, the ability to read or exfiltrate data from that mobile device. One of the security controls that I've seen sold on the market are basically write blockers, something that you plug into the USB cord that connects to your phone and the plug-in wall adapter, right? And that disables the device ability to read write. You know what I mean? It just enables the power connection.
So true. I think one has to build their own security toolbox. Like you've got to, like I was watching this show called The Star Force on Netflix. So I downloaded the entire season of Star Force before I boarded the flight, just like you.
Yep.
I had my power bank with me, so I don't have to connect to any other networks during my travel.
There you go.
And the VPN was also on in case I had to connect and do some work-related stuff.
Right.
And I only trusted the mobile hotspot of my phone to connect my laptop. And that's where I think this kind of creates a small shielded view for us. But still, despite of doing all of this, bad things can still happen. What do you do then?
Well, we talked about taking some of this preventative measures, right? We want to make sure that we have the actual contact information for our banks. So if we do receive any text messages or we feel like we have taken an action in error, we can call the legitimate bank and say, hey, I think I may have fallen for a phish or a vish. Please, lock my account and make sure that there's nothing nefarious happen. So you want to have those, safe numbers on hand so you can confirm and verify, especially while you're traveling. Make sure you have backup, numbers and ID, photos of your passport numbers and, your credit card numbers and bank account, the contact information. So if there is an opportunity or something that goes wrong and you need it, you have it on hand where you can call and ask for assistance as applicable.
Absolutely. As in the Hollywood movies say, we are in code red mode now. Because
we're in code red
compromise has, we are in code red now. One can always have an offline diary like this, the good old diary method, where you write down a few things. What are the most critical bank accounts that you have? And how are you protecting them? I would say one hygiene factor is keeping that account which has your savings, not to really enable the internet banking on that, and always transacting from a different smaller account where the risk is getting lowered. In the cybersecurity world, we always talk about reducing the risk. This is just one another way of doing it.
Exactly. And of course, enabling, multi-factor authentication, right? Not only on our device, we have the ability to use the biometric features and the PIN codes, But as we link to our particular apps as well, whether that be your banking app, your credit card, whatever the case may be, make sure you have multi-factor authentication in place. Make sure you have the contact information up to date, so they know how to get in touch with you as well. And then also, when we think about some of these non-trivial apps, I'll call those the gaming apps and even your social media apps. You should be mindful of the security and privacy settings associated with that. When we download these apps, they are collecting data on us. That's how they make their money, right? Location data, some of those type of things are of importance to us and of sensitive nature. So we want to make sure we're disabling while we're traveling and not oversharing.
And keeping an eye on your mailbox. A lot of times you see an email that there was a login attempt in your email ID from a different location. One should not ignore these kind of attempts. The moment you see an unknown attempt to log into your email address, you should go ahead and change the password immediately. And
exactly,
we should know how the attackers behave as well. For example, the typical, I would say the typical procedure that attackers follow is the moment they take over any account, be it an email account, they are going to change the password, they are going to change the backup password and the mobile number, which is going to receive the backup codes. So you have no way of recovering that email ID or changing the password. And that's where what is the ultimate procedure here? If somebody changes all of this, has your email provider given any of these solution or provisions that you can call them and say that my account has been compromised? They will do some kind of verification for you, and then you can get the access back. But knowing about it, reading about it, researching about it, being proactive, I think that's what's going to help our listeners and viewers.
Great point, Aniket. Critical thinking to reduce risk is what it's all about.
So true. So, Dr. Byrd, in this episode, we talked about a lot of personal safety related topics. But nowadays, AI is on everybody's mind. How can one remain safe while using AI? Are there any risks coming from AI usage as well?
Of course. When we talk about, using third-party apps, we want to make sure that we are protecting our own personal information, our own personal data. Just note, whether it's our social media platforms or our third-party apps, whether that be a fitness app or, an AI app, that once we share that data, it's no longer ours. So you want to make sure that the information that you put out in the public domain is not sensitive and personal. Again, we want to confirm and verify the output. Everything that, comes out of the AI is not accurate. So we need to confirm or verify that as well. So those are things that we can certainly keep in mind from the personal standpoint. And then as we traditionally share with social engineering, you need to confirm or verify before you take any financial action, associated with AI. Assure that who you're talking to or who you think you're engaging with is the actual person, right? On the LinkedIn or WhatsApp, any of these, platforms, cybercriminals are using those to create these chat, conversations where they're trying to sell financial advice or whatever the case may be. Just be cautious of that.
And the thing about AI is there is always a new AI that's getting created every minute.
Yeah.
So you are going to hear about or see some new AI application being talked about in the news or in some kind of a blog. So don't be in a hurry to click on it and sign in with your Google and start using that app blindly. Do some study on that. How many people have actually used it? Are there any reviews on that? Do some background research on any new AI app that you are about to start using. One resource that I would like to recommend to everybody is there's something called thereisanaIforthat.com. You heard that right. ThereisanaIforthat.com. So you can, if you heard about a new tool, go to that site, type it in, see what you can get out of there. If you see that it's a really popular app, pretty good to go. But if you see that TAAFT doesn't know about it, you might get a little suspicious on that. So, Dr. Byrd, last question to you at the end of this episode. Have you been subjected to something like this? Or have you been attempted to get phished or social engineering or any other kind of compromise? Any attacks on you on that?
All of the time, Aniket, all of the time. None of us are immune from this, right? So,
Yeah.
as we wrap up today's discussion, I want to, reinforce that critical thinking reduces risk.
Yeah.
In the U.S., we are in the tax season, right? So I'm getting tons of these IRS related text messages, right? Urgent, take this action right now. You need to do this. You need to do that. That's something that is constantly bombarding my device. I'm also getting text messages saying that I have these unpaid tolls, even though I
Oh.
have not been on the toll road. It's saying need to
Yeah.
take an action immediately or your license will be revoked. So, after further review, you just critically think and say, hey, is this how the federal government, the IRS, communicates with me? No, it's not,
Yeah.
right? They do not
Yeah.
communicate via text messages and all of those type of things. So just be cautious. The due dates are not here yet. We're just in the season with which people are preparing to submit taxes. So there should not be this sense of urgency that you have to act immediately. So again,
Yeah.
critically thinking about that, pausing for a moment, because these things are, kind of touchy, emotional touch points for a lot of people, right? That's what the cyber criminals are hoping for. Text messages around tolls, or as we indicated early, family members in distress, or IRS.
Yeah.
All of those things are these lures that are used during this season to induce unsafe actions. So critically
Yeah.
thinking to reduce risk is the way to go.
Absolutely. Now, in India, the things are changing a bit, as in, because of the war scenario, there is a shortage of the liquefied petroleum gas, LPG. So the LPG cylinders are really in short demand. The restaurants are closing. And whenever something is in short supply, there is a black market that gets created for that, where the
Of
same
course.
asset is being sold being at 4x value. But more importantly, phishing also starts to use that. So if
Yeah.
somebody who is a restaurant owner who's desperate to get a cylinder, he gets a message that, hey, go to this platform and you will get 5 cylinders at a really less rate. That person might jump onto that. So
Yeah.
it's always about those emotional touch points, as you said. So in India, that is the emotional touch point, which is nationwide. It is common to everybody. So I would like to
Yep.
advise to all the viewers and listeners to our podcast from India and from everywhere that if you see an urgent message, just like Dr. Byrd received as an SMS or I receive as an email, you have to think twice. Take a pause for the cause.
There
With
you
that,
go, Aniket.
With that, let's wrap up this episode. Any last comments, Dr. Byrd, before you wrap up the episode?
Hey, critical thinking reduces risk. I'll leave it at that.
Great. Thank you so much, Dr. Byrd. Thank you so much, everyone, for listening in. And we would look forward to see you and meet you in the next episode of this podcast. Thank you so much and have a great,
Thank you,
great
everyone.
day.
Have a great day.